Welcome back to the channel Process Drivers. Today we're going to be doing a software comparison between the task management tool Todoist and the work management tool ClickUp to keep us kind of in that middle area between overly detailed and overly topical. We're going to be focusing today on 4 categories. That is design and feel, features, pricing, and language. And I'm pretty sure I said those in the wrong order, but you'll pick it up as we go through the video. Before we dive in though to our first point of comparison, I want to just get a little disclaimer out of the way. If you're not aware, hello, my name is Layla. I am a process and ClickUp consultant at ProcessDriven. So as you might gather, I have a bit of a bias coming into this comparison, and I want you to know that. I want to own that. But I want to let you also know that despite working with 1,200 plus teams on setting up ClickUp and making a ton of videos on my YouTube channel about beginner, advanced, intermediate ClickUp use cases, I am not, ClickUp's the best for everyone. I'm not in that camp. I still find myself recommending Todoist for people for whom Todoist is the right choice. So I just want to let you know that from the get-go so I don't see comments being like, what are you talking about, you ClickUp user, you? I hope this will provide a comprehensive and unbiased comparison between Todoist and ClickUp. And if you find value in this as we go through today, check out the links in the description below to try out these tools and like and subscribe, of course. All right, I think that's all the obligatory disclaimers. Let's dive into section 1. Here we have Todoist and ClickUp side by side on their features comparison page. When it comes to ClickUp, you start your day inside of Home, where you can see all of the tasks that are assigned to you grouped by the due date. That's pretty much your only option when it comes to the Home area, but we do have a lot of options elsewhere in the interface for customization. When we click around, we see things like notifications grouped into this Notifications tab, goals, and a few other more advanced features, favorites to go to certain areas in our ClickUp, and ultimately the hierarchy where all of our tasks actually live. In ClickUp, tasks live on lists like these, and you can move them between these lists or have them appear in multiple lists, just like I showed you here. Not that complicated. That's kind of the hierarchy and look of ClickUp. If you were to start your day, you'd go into Home, you'd probably browse those notifications, and then you might go into a given task, which looks something like this. When it comes to collaborating in a task, there's commenting on the bottom right side and includes a lot of formatting options that can be convenient and even make communication a bit quicker. This is how you would go about using ClickUp on the day-to-day, and this is kind of the look and feel of ClickUp. It's a lot of modals, a lot of drop shadows, also a lot of small fonts and things that show up only when you hover over them. That's kind of ClickUp's aesthetic in the current form. Note, I am comparing right now ClickUp 2.0. This is the second overall version of ClickUp. Come late 2022, this will change significantly, but for now, this is what we got. Let's compare that now with Todoist. This is what Todoist would look like when you start your day. Immediately you can tell it's a very, very different interface. It's a very different look. In Todoist, you also have a sidebar menu, but it's a lot more minimal even when expanded. You don't have a lot of options here outside of actually organizing your tasks because Todoist is a more focused to-do, get it, task-based tool. Inside, at the very top of your menu, you have the inbox area of Todoist, and you also have Today. These are 2 different ways in order for you to organize and focus in on your tasks for any given period of time. Beyond that, you also have Upcoming, which it's kind of like what's incorporated into ClickUp's view, but the way it's broken out here is just really nice and refreshing and clean. Similar to ClickUp's spaces and that kind of structure, in Todoist you organize your tasks around projects, which is what we have right here in the work zone. Inside work, we have all of our tasks, and we have them grouped into these sections similar to Asana. In fact, in general, I would say Todoist is a lot more like Asana, and Monday.com is a lot more like ClickUp. So if you're familiar with those, that could also be a helpful kind of cheat sheet for yourself. Inside here, if we were to go into a task to actually start working on our day, we see something similar to a Trello card, and not too different than what we saw inside ClickUp. We have a task description, we have information, but overall the look and feel of Todoist is a lot simpler. And if we need to comment inside our task cards here, we could click comment and it looks something like that. We do also have some formatting options, but because Todoist is a little bit newer than ClickUp when it comes to commenting, it's not quite as developed. Here you can see a side-by-side of the two interfaces when I use a split screen. You can see the activity here, which kind of breaks down into the comment section in the Todoist area. And this is kind of the difference between the look and feel of these two pieces of software. Looking at these two side by side, you can see that there's a pretty striking difference in the overall look of these two pieces of software. Not only is Todoist a little bit faster to navigate, even in that quick click through, Todoist is also a lot more minimal. It's a lot more like Notion in some ways, and sorry to keep throwing software names at you, I'm just hoping something will click for you. But it's just very open. There's not a lot of stuff. If I hover over things, there aren't tons of hidden menus appearing. Whereas ClickUp is a lot more dense. There's a lot of really tiny icons that you can just barely see. There's a lot of things that only show up if you know to hover there. Just some strange things about the interface that you don't see when you compare it with Todoist. And overall, when it comes to ease of use and design, comparing ClickUp versus Todoist, I think for most people, you're going to be on the same page as me and say that Todoist is a little bit easier. It's just more calming, relaxing, and well organized to be inside. Not to mention the font usage inside of Todoist, it just feels a little bit easier to read and just generally more relaxed than the ClickUp super dense interface. So when it comes to design and feel between ClickUp and Todoist is the winner in my book. That brings us to the second category though, which is features. And this is where things kind of flip themselves around because ClickUp, as you can tell just from the interface here, it does a lot of stuff. You ever hear the phrase apple to orange comparison, meaning things are so different it's hard to compare? Yeah, that's kind of the case here. Todoist is a to-do app. It is made for task management and it does that really well. It's expanding into team management, but all of the features we see that are really core to Todoist revolve around to-dos. Again, go figure with the name. ClickUp, on the other hand, has a much bolder vision and it's a little bit more greedy in what it wants to accomplish inside your tech stack. Not only does ClickUp try to be good at task management, it also wants to be good at document creation and dashboards and reporting and team chat and universal search and I could just keep adding all of the different apps ClickUp is trying to replace. If we do a quick side-by-side of the features pages on each of these platforms, this is going to become clear. Just based on the top line on each of these companies' feature pages, it's very clear how different each of these pieces of software is trying to be and ultimately is. Now, I could go through every feature difference between Todoist and ClickUp, for example, like how Todoist has a reschedule button right inside the overdue, but meanwhile, ClickUp has a pretty cool goals feature that's usually underutilized. But despite how fun it would be to go through every feature that is different between the two of these, I don't want to waste your time on that necessarily. Leave it to say that in general, almost everything that you could do in Todoist, every feature on here, you are able to build in ClickUp. And I'm just going to give you a quick run through of the equivalents here so you can do that comparison and understand that overlap. So for example, quick add, possible in ClickUp. Recurring due dates, stronger in ClickUp. Sections and subtasks, possible in ClickUp with a custom field. Focusing your energy on the right things, priority levels in ClickUp. Favorites in ClickUp. Reminders in ClickUp, even on the free plan. Sharing workload, assignees and notifications in ClickUp for both of them. Scrolling on down, boards in ClickUp, labels in ClickUp, filters are called views in ClickUp, but same thing, works just as well, even on the free plans. Themes, you can kind of do it in ClickUp through dark mode and light mode, but it's not quite as pretty, but you're close. That's the closest one to being incomparable between the two. After that, we've got the organization of work, add tasks via email, can do it in ClickUp. Comments and file uploads in ClickUp. Calendar feeds in ClickUp, although I do think Todoist looks a little bit nicer, which I'll talk about in a moment. Progress and reporting, you can do all of this stuff in ClickUp, but it doesn't look nearly as nice as this, but you can do it using things like workload views, work in progress columns, activity history, everything on here, including points which ClickUp recently implemented only behind the scenes for their verified user program. Everything in here ClickUp is capable of doing, including integrations. And I know I just ran through those really quickly, but that's just more for your knowledge and reference later on. Leave it to say anything Todoist can do, so can ClickUp. But pretty much anything Todoist can do, it does better than ClickUp. Yeah, I know. This is why I cheat on ClickUp. Todoist does a smaller amount of stuff, but it does it at a higher quality, whereas ClickUp does a much larger volume of stuff, more features, more power, more functionality, but at a slightly lower quality than what we're seeing at Todoist. For that reason, even though one could argue it's a bit of a judgment call, for most people I would say ClickUp wins the features battle because you can just do so much more than what you could in Todoist. Ooh, quick reminder here, if you're enjoying this video so far, it is free, yes, but your payment would be appreciated. If you just hit that like button and drop a comment below, that'll let YouTube know you're enjoying this, and that payment for this free video would go a long way. Thanks so much, and back to the video. Now, features are great, right? But if you can't understand what the features are doing, not going to be that helpful to you. So in this next section, I want to talk about the most literal level of understanding we can have, which is language understanding. What languages are these pieces of software in? Well, on this one, it's again, another flipperoo on Todoist, and we have the level of language support we would expect from such an established tool. Todoist is currently available in all of these languages you see here on the screen, which is really exciting to see. Plus, you can also have it have different languages based on the app that you're in, which is pretty cool if you want to use Spanish when you're on the go, but English when you're in your home office, as their example is provided. Pretty nice touch, Todoist. Well done. Now, when we transition over to ClickUp, we also get what we would expect. ClickUp is a much newer tool. It's US-based and seemingly very US-centric. English and French are the main supported languages in ClickUp right now, but please note this is limited to the interface, like the words on the page. ClickUp's support, ClickUp's docs, ClickUp's resources are still overwhelmingly only in English. So while ClickUp says that Spanish and Portuguese are coming soon, which is awesome to hear, just recognize that the support avenues you have are still pretty focused on languages at this point in time. I wouldn't in good conscience recommend ClickUp to someone who does not have people who are comfortable working in English on their team at this point in time, just because of that severe restriction. So that's where ClickUp's at on the language front. What's the decision here between Todoist and ClickUp? Which one's the winner? Well, I think it's pretty clear that Todoist, as the more established tool, just has a lot more options when it comes to language support. This is something we expect ClickUp to scale up really quickly, so when we talk in 2025, this will certainly change. But that's the state of things right now. And with that, I think we're ready for our fourth and final category, which is pricing. When it comes to pricing of Todoist versus ClickUp, at first glance, Todoist is going to look a whole lot cheaper. After all, their highest plan is only $6 per user per month. Whoa. When we compare that to ClickUp, whose lowest plan is $5 per user per month, it seems like Todoist is the natural winner here. But remember what we talked about earlier. ClickUp has a lot more features. So if you are someone who's looking to get the most out of every dollar or euro or pound or zloty that you're looking to spend, if you're looking to get the most out of your investment in a tool, even though Todoist appears cheaper, I have to say ClickUp still wins this argument. And back in the day, when I made the decision for myself of what tool do I like the most, ClickUp really won the day for those smaller teams because of that accessibility. You will get far more power for each dollar you spend or don't spend by using ClickUp than you will out of Todoist, just because of the scope of the platform. When you're buying Todoist, you are buying a beautiful interface, reliability, support, quality, but only a small feature set. Whereas with ClickUp, we get a large quantity and again, a slightly lower quality. All right, so we've gone through 4 categories of comparison between ClickUp and Todoist. Which one is better? Well, I don't know. Ultimately, if you're planning on working with a group of people, meaning a team of some kind, I think you're going to find ClickUp is the better option. And if you're looking to get the most out of each dollar you spend, ClickUp is the better option. However, if you're someone who is going to be solo or on a very small team in perpetuity, or you really value that reliability and aesthetics, maybe you're looking to switch off of Notion and you don't want to give up that calm, serene environment, Todoist is going to be the better choice for those users. And to the original question as to why do I cheat on ClickUp, it's for that simplicity. When I have folks coming to me looking to organize their personal life, they don't want to get very techy. They want simplicity and clean and nice and organized. Todoist is absolutely fantastic for those kinds of users, and that's who I generally recommend go forward with Todoist. For folks like myself who are a little nerdy, who like to get in there and mess around with things and use some more advanced features, even if you are a team of one, ClickUp is the more fun and more scalable choice for folks who are looking to do something and grow it out into a big ecosystem or the HQ of their tech stack, any of that kind of stuff. But ultimately, the question comes down to which of these tools would you actually enjoy going into in the morning and starting your work there. Ultimately, usage is the greatest indicator in my experience of the success of any platform, whether you're using Todoist, ClickUp, or a spreadsheet. A crappy tool that you can commit to using is going to be better than an amazing tool that you don't want to bear staring at when you're starting your day each morning. So keep that in mind as well. That concludes our comparison between Todoist and ClickUp. We have links to both of these tools in the description below. They both have free plans, so you can go poke around and try them out for yourself if you're still on the fence. And otherwise, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'll see you next time for another video about ClickUp, process, and everything in between. Until next time, enjoy the process.